All right, good evening, everyone out there. We are going to be talking with William LeGate. I got that one right because I asked beforehand because, I'm trying my best here. But we are going to be talking about Wall Street Bets. We are going to be talking about AMC and GME and all the other fun stuff to do with these stocks the last few days. Honestly, the last week, really, for how it's been going, but the news is on top of it the last few days. So let me open up with some images that are going to kind of show what's going on here. So we start with, of course, a little memeing because it turns out that we are now playing with meme stocks, and it is getting quite funny. But we move quickly into the person who actually started this whole mess, all this entertainment we're having right now, whose username on Reddit is Deep Fucking Value. And this is their post from yesterday. And this is $8.9 million in daily gains off of just GameStop. And you can see that there in the green on the bottom. And then this is today's. Because they're just letting it ride, there's the $20.1 million gained today by this user. Over here, we've got another smaller user, but this user came in to just talk about the life-changing move from about $12,000 to $750,000 and what this means for their family and the fact that they were getting out with the money and not going to, take the wild ride that everyone else was still holding for. This is, the funny meter on Yahoo's finance page where they say it's really overvalued at $307. And that's because if you look right next to the arrow where it says the target is 12.39 and it's currently at 307.42. Now, a lot of this is going to go over some people who just don't follow the stock market's heads. It's just going to go right by, and that's fine. We're going to get into it. We're going to explain all this hilarity that's going on right now. Personally, I think it's funny. I know there's some hedge fund managers who aren't really enjoying the day, but I also think that's funny. And then over here, we find out that Biden's team is actually monitoring the situation. We find this out from the press secretary in the White House today during briefing where Jennifer Epstein actually asked that question. And then we see AOC is watching. And this is one of my favorites. She says, "Gotta admit it's really something to see Wall Streeters with a long history of treating our economy as a casino complain about a message board of posters also treating the market as a casino." And I mean, there's just no truer way to say this. But then we start to get into the fun. And, the NASDAQ is now responding saying, well, maybe we need to stop it so we can let all these hedge funders get their money back before it's too late. I don't think that's how the free market is supposed to work, personally. I've got some problems with this. And then, of course, we end up here with, Wall Street Bets Discord server supposedly hijacked, somehow down. Maybe it was taken down by some type of enforcement movement. Maybe it hit some limits and their automated systems came in, but they set up a backup. That backup lasted about 5 minutes, and that's what it does when you try and connect to it now. And we end up with this at the very end. Wall Street Bets, as of about 10 minutes ago, closed up shop and are currently private. Only people who are verified members who the moderators have approved on a list get to see it now and get to take part in what's going on. There could be 100 reasons for this, and we're going to talk all about it as we go live now. And there we are. How's it going, Will?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing all right. So, I'm looking around today at all this just, I think, hilarity. By your tweets, I think you kind of find it funny, too.
I think it's hilarious. It's the funniest thing I've seen in years, honestly. I'm loving every bit of it, and I'm rooting for the Redditors.
The small guys. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I, of course, have like negative money in the bank. I have all of my reasons for not being too financially healthy at the moment, but that's fine. I'm not here to complain about that. Just saying I wish, a few days ago I had money, because I'm watching this when GME is still below 30, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be funny, and I want in. I called and told a few friends about it. One of them got a little in, but not enough that it's life-changing, but they're going to make like 4 or 5 grand off of it. Not horrible. But I'm watching it just, from the sidelines at this point, and my knowledge of the space is enough that I understand shorting, I understand the squeezing, I understand all the basics of it, but not in any real advanced nature. So I was looking around today for someone doing some good kind of catch-up threads, and you had my favorite with all the screenshots, all the calling people out, even AOC liking and reading your stuff. Like it was just blowing up. So here we are to talk this out. So let me say what I think is happening, and then you will totally correct the hell out of me. So
sounds good.
So if I understand it, the people on the Reddit, they figured out that you can track which stocks are getting shorted the most. So where there's a hell of a lot of short and some room to move, which means it's possible to squeeze these people out of their positions by just making it move up only a little bit. Is that
exactly.
The basics of it?
Yeah, basically. WallStreetBets has been around for many, many years now, and this hasn't always been kind of their prerogative, in the sense that like they haven't always just been going after heavily shorted stocks. It's just generally been a place where people take extremely risky financial bets, and then they either post what they call their loss porn or their insane gains. And obviously, in the past week or so, we've seen a pretty consolidated efforts and energies going towards the GameStops and these kind of what I would call memeable stocks, and kind of everyone on those forums taking long positions on those. So it's pretty crazy. It really has put a spotlight on how easy it is to manipulate the markets. If you have these retail traders, making these massive price swings, you just have to imagine what goes on behind closed doors with the most, biggest hedge funds in the world.
Yeah, if this is thousands of people coming together, kind of pooling resources, if you will, although I still don't believe it's any form of illegal market manipulation, just people deciding that this is a good idea and all saying, we're going to do it, right? If you have that, and then you look at their total buying power still being way less than any of the big hedge funds, and then you can imagine that 2 people in a room over there could outdo these people if they want to make the same type of moves in terms of the volume of capital they can move. So I don't see how they find a way to tell us that it's right to stop the retail traders from doing this. I know they're going to try. I just don't see how they get away with that.
They're definitely going to try. But at the end of the day, these are public stock tips that they're sharing. And it's like, by definition, not insider trading. It's outsider trading. It's public knowledge they're trading on, and public, it's momentum that's not, it's a collaborative effort. It's not, you don't have one person leading this movement. It's just a lot of people who believe in these stocks and also don't like hedge funds. And
my people.
Yeah, and the powers that be, I think, are starting to get mad that the wrong people are manipulating the markets. They like it when only they can manipulate the markets, and it's pretty crazy that they stopped trading on most of these stocks today. You couldn't even buy or sell them. Yeah, and why? Because a few hedge funds lost half of their portfolio balance. Like, if you or I lose half of our portfolio, they don't care at all. Like,
yeah,
why?
They're like, thanks, we made that money.
Exactly. And they claim that it's for to protect the small guy, but that just happens to coincide with these hedge funds imploding. Like, who are you really protecting here? So I think people are starting to really see through the shenanigans of Wall Street, and it's united both sides of the political spectrum as well, which is something that's nice to see. So.
Well, I've been, my favorite comment I saw so far was yesterday when someone said this was Occupy Wall Street version 2, and you can pre-order it at GameStop. I was just like, yes, I wish we had accomplished this at Occupy. This would have been amazing.
Yeah, I love it.
But let's talk about like what's actually happening. Like we're gonna put this up on YouTube afterward, and I want people to be able to really understand. So when you buy a stock, you're just saying, "Give me my share of that stock." But you can also short a stock, and you can also go long on a stock. When you're shorting a stock, what you're saying is, "I think it's at $20, but I think it's going to go down to $15." So I'm going to tell you I'll sell you it at a certain level, but I want to get my order in now. And then when it goes down, you make that difference. When you're going long, it's the exact opposite, right?
Yeah, basically. If you're short, what you're doing is you're buying a stock, you're borrowing a stock from someone, you pay them a small premium to borrow the stock, and then you sell it right away with the expectation that it'll go down in price. You'll buy it back at a smaller price, give the stock back, and then you make the difference in profit minus the premium you paid. The problem with GameStop, and I think this will be something that the SEC actually might have to step in and regulate, is you had more shares shorted than there were shares in existence. So you had about 140% of all shares in existence were also in short positions. So the way that works is you can short a share infinite number of times. You can, I can borrow a share from you, sell it to someone else. They can then, they can continue shorting these stocks. Sorry.
No worries.
And GameStop happened to have 140% shorts over shares outstanding, which is just insane to even think about. And it's pretty crazy that these institutional investors are talking down to retail traders for taking advantage of that situation. They were over leveraged. They were reckless in their management of funds, and in my opinion. And there is nothing wrong or illegal with what these people are doing. This will be something that hedge funds in the future have to kind of take into account when they're assessing their risk for their portfolio.
This is a historic event right now, whether people see it or not. Like the president has a group of people who are now watching a subreddit. Like that is what has happened. Well, now they're not. Yep. I mean, it's private, but so let's talk about the other side of this though, because if you look at how the people have attacked it, if you actually do follow any of the stock markets, which I kind of follow, but again, a little too poor to really be playing around in it lately, but I follow and I get the basics, and the idea that GameStop would be worth somewhere in the $15 to $16 range, maybe even falling down to the $12 range over the next year, makes complete fundamental sense. Everyone's downloading their games now. Everyone, I don't know many people who have physical discs anymore. And, like I got COD so I could go kill a bunch of Nazi zombies, and that came right down over the internet, right? I don't have a disc. So GameStop's having trouble, obviously. They got a little bit of a pickup because the new PlayStation 5 and the Xbox, you can get them with a physical drive still. I didn't think they were going to come with actual physical drives anymore. But so $12 to $16 makes fundamental sense, right? Like completely. $300 makes no sense. Like there's no reason this stock should be worth that, I think. But unless it's worth that, they sell off enough to then pay down their debt to nothing. They only have $400 million in debt, and they had already filed with the SEC that they were going to be selling off some more shares in order to pay off some debt. Now that same number of shares they had requested to sell off is enough to pay off all of their debt. So now suddenly it's this weird mix of, is it actually worth the amount of money that the stock is now starting to head up to, or is it really actually only worth about $12? Like fundamentally.
Yeah, I mean, you bring an interesting point in terms of talking about the stock on a fundamental basis, but you have to consider that a lot of hedge funds, their entire investment thesis is they're not investing on fundamentals. A lot of these funds are investing on technical analysis, basically betting on small swings, up or down on stocks, like very, very, very small numbers in terms of the margin the stock has to move for them to profit. And the way they're doing that is basically just algorithms that are watching momentum in different stocks. So those types of traders are care next to nothing about fundamental analysis of a stock. So I think that it's the entire the framing of is it really worth it because it's not worth it on a fundamental level isn't quite the right the right question, because there's also technical traders who trade on technical analysis, and arguably, everyone right now who bought in, lower than the current price is up money on paper at least, and they saw the momentum and they took advantage of that. So just because it's retail traders and average Americans taking advantage of this momentum, I don't think it's fair to say, oh, that's not okay, but it's okay. Right. When these giant hedge funds are using robots to trade on momentum and swing prices. Like it's this ridiculous double standard that I think it's being made very clear and evident to the public, I think, with this. So we'll see what happens. They're certainly going to go after people, I think. But
I had VidGrid up earlier, which is it's a thing that lets you watch 4 live TV streams at once. So I had that up in my browser earlier, and in one I had Cheddar, which now do their own live full financial all day. In the other I had CNBC, and then I had Bloomberg US, and then I had just randomly NBC over there. And I was just watching with the volume down to see how often and how long they put into this and who they brought on. And no fault, within 10 minutes, one of them would go off and the next one would have someone on. And all day long, it was talking heads from Wall Street trying to explain to the public why this is bad for them. Not for the hedge funds, but bad for the public, and all these fear tactics trying to get us convinced that they need to be able to halt this trading to save these hedge funds, because otherwise the government might need to bail them out. But no, how about not? How about just don't bail them out? I find this hilarious. So the thing that I want to understand better is, my new favorite kind of kicking toy, Melvin. They are in a lot of shit here, to be blunt, right? They held a lot of that short position, and that seems to be their game. And being that I think people who do that a lot aren't, in the first place, good people, aren't good for anything. They don't add to our society. They only take from our society if that's your major thing. And if you're a fan of Tesla, you don't have to be a fan of Elon Musk to be a fan of electrification of things like cars and whatnot. But if you're a fan of just Tesla as a brand and whatnot, Melvin were the ones that were really strongly behind shorting Tesla a while ago, that you kept hearing Elon Musk complaining about and fighting against and laughing the entire time as he beat their shorts. So this is kind of round 2 with Melvin for the internet, where we're all watching them, but this time they're probably not going to survive it. So what do you think about that? Do you think they make it out of this? I would be shocked if they're able to make it out of it. I've seen rumors that they're filing for bankruptcy next week. Wow. I know that they had to borrow an emergency $3 billion from their buddies at a different hedge fund to cover their position, and that was gone in a matter of seconds this morning, just completely evaporated, transferred to these working people trading the stock. So that's good. But in terms of whether they're going to survive it, I don't see a scenario. Sorry. No worries.
I don't see a scenario that they're able to survive it, both from a financial standpoint, but also their entire investment thesis is kind of now underwater. They're not going to be able to just heavily short stocks and then get away with it. I think that this will be an ongoing trend in terms of,
until there's massive re-regulation, their whole methodology is shot, right? Because now the internet knows it can do this.
Yeah,
and the internet doesn't forget is kind of one of those wonderful ongoing jokes, but it won't forget this one, because a lot of people who were worth $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 last week total, in their whole lives, are now millionaires. And they're going to remember how that happened and work with all their friends to do the same thing.
Now they have millions of dollars to play with in the market.
Yeah.
So, it's there's momentum building, both from a kind of public relations standpoint of people realizing this is even possible, but also the people that are doing it are becoming, some of them, very wealthy, and they're going to be able to do it with more force in the coming days, weeks, possibly years. So
one of the kind of, I wouldn't call him institutional, but I definitely call him one of the more old school, richer, longer term investors out there, whose last name I never attempt to pronounce because I think I might just sound horrible doing it, but Chamath.
Yeah.
Pilahapidia. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I that name is too much for me.
You and
Um,
everyone else. Yeah.
but he got involved just to test the waters on what was going on and got out relatively quickly too. But he plays with a lot of money, so in and out pretty quickly for him on this one was a $500,000 gain. And he took that money and donated it all to charity. And he went on CNBC today to talk about it. And in chat, one of the people, Budosh in there, actually mentioned, I was watching it over there on the VidGrid. Every time he talked about how this is great that the retail traders are finally stepping up and how the hedge funds are going to have to learn to deal with this and no new regulation is needed, they kept cutting him off or switching to one of the other people or going to commercial. Like, they really didn't want him to make that point live, but they have trouble shutting him up because he's rich enough that they need to, agree to have him on.
Yeah, exactly. I actually talked with one of the CNBC hosts earlier today on the phone. It's may or may not be booked for a segment tomorrow with them,
Nice.
but I told them very bluntly that that their network, calling these people unsophisticated investors and that kind of stuff is just wrong, and that they're making fools of themselves, quite frankly. Those video clips are being shared. WallStreetBets is down on Reddit and Discord now, but those are being shared all over the internet and motivating people even more to want to take these people down.
Right.
They don't appreciate being talked down to. They don't appreciate this game being stacked against them. And they have realized for the first time the power and kind of an organized collective movement of, 1,000 little guys versus, it's a classic David versus Goliath situation.
It really is, and that's, I think, why a lot of people are kind of getting behind it, but also just finding it so funny. For every one of those millions of dollars that deep fucking value the user on Reddit has made, which is now $49 million as of close today. Who knows what After Hours has done to his portfolio, but right now he's at 49 million. Every bit of that had to come from the other side. That was people with shorts getting screwed and realizing they need to liquidate just a little to keep from losing everything. And so I'm also finding all of his gains not only great for him, but funny on that respect too. Like, this is hilarious.
Yeah, I love watching it. The numbers are absolutely bonkers. I've seen people already applying to be his shoe shiner and the guy who follows him around with a fan and everything.
There is nothing. I will say this just for the viewers who are new to this part of it. If or when WallStreetBets come back up, I am not telling you to go there unless you are ready for a very, very non-politically correct environment. They are not politically correct there. They do not care to be. You will be walking into a haven of basically dude bros who say whatever words they care about and do it kind of as an in-game. It's kind of how they identify each other. And so if you want to play around with them, you have to put up with that. No amount of correcting them is going to help. You're just going to get banned. So you have to put up with their jokes, but their jokes, for the most part on this, have been hilarious, especially like that. Like, I saw one earlier in his thread for the 27th today where someone said, if you're hiring for that guy who stands behind you and feeds you grapes while you lay on the gold chair all day, I want that job. I love it. So one of the things that I found interesting was there was a bunch of math done on one of the big threads there as they were starting to consolidate threads because they were killing Reddit. Reddit wasn't able to keep up with some of the traffic on some of these threads. And in one of them, they did the math where they showed that once it had hit something like $150, at that point, every $11 above that, 11 was exact, it would be $1 billion in losses for Melvin. And it went all the way up to 350, and who knows where it is tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely getting pounded after hours, but you also have to remember after hours, the total volume in those markets is orders of magnitude lower than the day market. So it's very easy to swing those prices. This isn't investment advice and, yada, yada, but I would caution people to not put in any more money than they can lose.
I would caution
as much
people
as
that at all times.
yeah, as much as I support this movement and love everything that is happening right now and watching these hedge funds just completely implode, it, it's very easy to kind of get caught up in that and then put a lot of money in, and then eventually, things are going to probably come down. We don't know that for sure for these stocks. Maybe they don't, and this is really truly a entirely new thing. But if history tells us anything, they're going to come back down to some level, maybe still higher than before. But just, I guess, be careful there and treat it like, especially if you're investing in these meme stocks, it should be kind of treated as gambling, in my opinion.
Absolutely a gamble. And I would say that on GME, on specifically GameStop, I personally wouldn't get in at this point now that it's already up over 300. I'm not going to play around at this level where now it's kind of stabilizing with 50, 75, 80, dollar up and downs instead of a steady rise like it has the last few days. I, however, with no advice for anyone else, if I had money right now, would be playing around a little at the lower level on the AMC, on the Bed Bath & Beyond, on Cross,
Nokia,
all the other meme stocks.
Naked, yeah.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if we had been paying attention, you could have gotten in early morning on AMC at open for $8, and 20 seconds later it was 20. Now it's leveling off around, the $18 range or something? I haven't checked it in a while. But still, you would have doubled whatever you put in if you had, fulfilled your order in 20 seconds. That would have been hilarious. Now, that, again, kind of like you said, that is not advice, and I'm not telling you to attempt this, and that is also not indicative of the normal market. This is things new being figured out. Now, I want to get your opinion on this because, in the chat, San Anto Homie there said, that one of the interesting points now is for the last few years, they've been trying to find ways to get the general public, the millennials, and kind of all the younger kids into the stock market because there was a time period where a lot of people weren't. And so they've appified it. So we now have all these apps. You can now buy stocks on CashApp. That doesn't make any sense to me. But Robinhood makes sense. It's it's a thing, right? It's not Venmo that suddenly now does stocks. Yeah. That's weird to me. But so here they are giving us all this power, begging us to all join in, saying, with any bits of money, you no longer have to hire someone to do all this work for you or understand how to talk to someone on the phone at a brokerage. No. Options are as easy as clicking 2 buttons and you're done. You've done options. You don't know what it means. We don't care. They've given it to us, and now they're really upset at what that has become.
Yep. And you have to also, you mentioned Robinhood. One of the funny things to me is you have hedge funds that are paying Robinhood very, very, very large sums of money, basically to get the data on what their users are trading, because the big hedge funds view Robinhood traders as a joke. Basically, they think very little of them and talk very condescendingly of them.
Like CNBC.
Exactly. So they pay for this data, but they're getting wrecked at the same time, even though they have all the data. And it's just, like you said, they wanted the retail investors to come in because they thought they'd be able to make some easy money off of them. And now it's just completely going the wrong way. And it's the funniest thing in the world to me.
Yeah, watching the tides really turn on the uber wealthy and the hedge funds is just hilarious to me. Now, I will say, as I'm watching this, all of the people are talking about holding all the way up to $1,000. And man, wow, that feels like a little lofty to me.
I mean, I think 1,000 is 100% possible. I don't think that it makes sense at 1,000. I don't think that I would certainly never buy at 1,000 or at its current price. But with the momentum it has, if it doubles, 1.5 more times, it's already there. I saw someone, not that it matters, but someone on CNBC earlier saying, it very well could go to 1,000. And again, that's not because it's rational, but
no,
the markets
there's
aren't
nothing that
rational
makes
right
sense.
now.
I mean, this company should be out of business in 5 years unless they radically change what they're doing. Now, if they didn't have a way to clear the $400 million in debt they have, then they're definitely not surviving 5 years from now because there's just no way they're making that back with their model. But if they can wipe out their debt, their model is still currently profitable. They can be on the black if they're at zero.
Yeah, I think they should do a secondary offering as of yesterday.
Yeah.
They should absolutely be issuing, and all these other companies that are benefiting from this
Yeah.
should do secondary offerings at as fast as possible. I don't think this is something that's going to, these prices I don't think are going to last. I think that most people probably realize that, even if they're, buying in, trying to make some quick money. I, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I was telling people to sell at 100, so
Yeah,
take
right.
my advice with a grain of salt.
Well, when I
But
watched it get to 100, I was doing the same to my couple friends I had been talking to about it. I was saying, I don't know, man. Because they both got in at 31. And so, I mean, that's good gains. I mean, that's really good gains. That was less than a full day of trading, and those kind of gains. Like, that's not a thing. That's not normal.
yeah,
That only happens to people who are literally breaking the law with like insider trading and whatnot. Like, this is how people like Martha Stewart add money into their bank accounts, not us.
yeah, those are gains that would be absolutely incredible for a year or even several years, let
Yeah.
alone like a day.
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, I mean, if you're in it for the meme value and you just want to give the finger to Wall Street, absolutely hold. Is kind of or hodl, as they say in the crypto
Indeed,
world.
indeed.
Um,
Hodl.
so yeah, I respect to those people. I think they have balls of steel, and they're the ones who are keeping the prices up. So shout out to you. But I don't have the risk tolerance right now to do that. I'm pretty much 100% in crypto in terms of my investments, and
Yeah.
but I wish everyone luck
Right.
who's out there giving Wall Street the finger.
I think that for me is my favorite part of all of this. Like during Occupy Wall Street, we're there in Zuccotti Park where these first few days are going by, and everyone in the buildings around us who work in those towers are kind of figuring out what life is going to be like with a bunch of tents, outside of their windows. But there's a small team of people whose job it is to handle security. And, unlike the cops who don't really seem to care if anyone walks through and just grabs other people's stuff and walks off with it. So they build their own little security team. And then they put up these bins for collecting tips, right? And one of the funniest things to watch was people coming out of these big financial towers doing the whole looking left, looking right, I don't recognize anyone, and then walking to the other side of the street and walking down the street like they hadn't actually done that. And when you went and looked at one of the tip jars that was close to them, it was like $500 they had just dropped into the tip jar. And the normal tips were like $1, sometimes just pocket change. And these guys were like just dropping stacks of hundreds in there. And I never quite understood the mentality of the few who were doing it, but I really appreciated the hell out of it.
Yeah,
That kind of same mentality, like I think it would be hilarious if people with that same mindset were noticing some of this stuff faster than some of us retail types who don't have access to the amount of data they do, and we're going into places like WallStreetBets like, hey everyone, this one's next, a day before we'd ever figure it out. I would love to see stuff like that start happening.
yeah, I'm seeing. There's some people that are even calling to ban all social media like talk about stocks, which I guess is one way to counter that. But like last time I checked, we're not living in China, and that's
Isn't
a
this
clear First Amendment
not only
violation.
free speech, but isn't this also a free market? And I mean, it's spoken. Your
Yeah,
shorts are gonna get squeezed now. Let's
yeah,
go. This is gonna be fun.
yeah.
So
It's no different than Tesla,
yeah,
fanboys hyping up their stock. It's literally the
same
same
thing.
thing. So
Exactly the same thing.
yeah,
Against the same group of people, in fact. Poor
yeah.
Melvin. I don't feel
Poor
anything for them
Melvin.
actually.
Yeah,
I don't wish like them to end up, say, I don't know, jumping from the building like you see in some of those old Wall Street movies. But I do hope that they lose their mansions and everything else for what they've done in their lives, because I do think they have really brought nothing to this country other than take, take, take. I mean, when you look at a Bezos, you can be angry at that amount of wealth and what it means. There's just no need for it. That should not exist. I don't mind if you have $10 million. I don't mind if you have $100 million. Like I can even see some future where there's upper limits, but like but $200 billion is just ludicrous. That's not, there's no world in which that's good. And in that same respect, I think a lot of these equity firms kind of, I feel the same about them too. Like, if they go all the way down, if Melvin completely crashes, I've seen a few different numbers, but based on their bailout, the positions they already had, and what funds they had left available to cover during bankruptcy, they'd be down like $13 billion that just like went up, just poof, in like 3 days.
Yeah.
That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. I wasn't really, I guess, old enough to be paying attention back during the housing, crisis, and when, you had these big institutions going under. But it's the same feeling I feel like today, but with social, 2021 social media, like frenzy, and it's just, we're all watching it happen in real time, and it's just absolute craziness. And, people can coordinate in a way that they weren't able to before as well to kind of stand up against these institutions that are treating them unfairly. It'll be interesting to see what happens long term. I just don't see a way in which this will be able to be stopped.
Not without like violating their own rules and laws.
Yeah. I definitely feel like overall we're in a bit of a bubble in the stock market, and that the entire market coming down will probably be what kind of ends this once and for all. But as to when that's going to happen, I don't know. It could be next week. It could be next year. It could be that if anyone knew when it will happen, it could be very wealthy trading on
George
that.
Soros shorting the British pound, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Here's $6 billion out of nowhere, and a country begging you to stop.
That's the craziest story. For anyone who hasn't kind of looked into that, you should absolutely do so. George Soros basically just obliterated an entire country by betting against its currency.
There's a whole story there, which I think is a lot of the reason why a lot of the rich and powerful like to bring him up as kind of the boogeyman, is they all still hate him for what he did. I think it's funny, personally. I read that story and I was like, good on you, man. That's hilarious.
I mean, he's clearly very smart, and it takes balls to go after an entire country's currency and actually win. So respect to George. He also pays all of our paychecks for...
Right. I wish, man. I still don't have any of my Soros checks. But, so someone in the chat asked about after-hours trading. Can you explain what that means? Because the markets close at 5 p.m. here on the East Coast. What's going on after hours that, is happening?
Yeah, so basically a lot of like more, I guess, quote-unquote professional trading platforms, so like not Robinhood, allow you to trade after hours.
So we're talking like TD Ameritrade's, big stuff, all those bigger
Schwab,
platforms.
Yeah. I don't believe it's 24 hours, but it's like a few extra hours after and a few extra hours before the market generally opens to the public. In terms of how you do that, you would have to have a brokerage account on one of those platforms. I don't know. I know for sure Schwab allows you to do it just because I use Schwab, but Fidelity and all the other big ones will almost certainly allow it as well. You might have to sign some disclosure form or whatever, something special for it. But it's really no different beyond that in terms of, them trading during the day. You just have to kind of enter it in a special form to say it's a after hours trade, and there might be more fees, but definitely look up the terms on your
There's
platform.
Less liquidity in after hours trading. There's it's harder to get some larger orders filled. And mostly it's the big institutions doing any after hours stuff. It's very few like retail level traders doing that kind of work.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot easier to swing the price after hours for these institutions as well, because like you said, there's lower trade volume. So it just naturally means easier to create these bigger price swings. So, a lot of these stocks are going down after hours. That could very well just be institutions trying to cash out who don't think this will last. But hopefully they're wrong. Hopefully it keeps going.
For all the new
But
people watching, whenever I'm looking over here, it's because I'm reading chat, looking to see if you guys have any questions or anything. It's not because I'm doing something. There's no TV over here. This is the chat box. So yeah, so right before Wall Street Bets got shut down, or kind of set private by the moderators, someone went in there and posted something, and you captured it and put it up on Twitter for anyone who wants to go to Will's Twitter there and see it. But I'm gonna read this message from Wall Street Bets here for everyone, and it's titled "A Message to Everyone on Wall Street from Somebody with Nothing to Lose. You only think you're in control. You're trying to scare us into selling. It won't work. Let me explain why. I grew up poor. I grew up poor on the poor side of town. I remember my parents struggling with money for years. Shitty cars, shitty clothes, never owned any video game consoles because not only did my parents not approve of them, they couldn't afford them. Ramen was a staple at my home. I still eat it to this day. Pro tip, you can have, for the future, a slice of cheese and a whisked egg in your ramen make it way better than it was with seasoning alone. I've been broke almost my entire life. I've never had more than $9,000 liquid at one time. I've been nearly homeless too many times to count. I'm an expert at thrift store shopping. I've worked 50, 60, 70, 80, 90-hour weeks at shit jobs since I started working at 18. I've never stolen. My parents raised me to be honest and a good person and a hard worker. That's just who I am." And then it continues. "I have struggled and have always dealt with debt and have lived basically paycheck to paycheck for my entire adult life. If you think the prospect of losing the few $100s I have in GME is going to scare me into selling before Friday, you couldn't be more wrong. When you only ever average like 1,000 in your checking account, what's the difference when it's 100 or 10? Do you have any idea how many times I've been there before? You know what I do when I'm completely fucking broke? I literally shrug my shoulders and play some video games or music until my next paycheck. And I'll do it again. I'm not here to get rich overnight. I don't have enough to invest to make that happen. I'm here to say fuck you and to be a part of this movement, this moment. I will never sell. Never. I don't even care about my money at this point. If I never see it again, it makes no difference to me. I have to go right back to work tomorrow and the next day and next week and next month and next year. There isn't a single thing you can say or do to change my position. I risk my money happily. I am not the least bit scared or worried. You might be a financial expert. I'm a survival master. Power to the people. I will not sell." That message is beautiful.
Yeah, I love every bit of it. It captures I think the just overall sentiment and kind of thinking of this movement just perfectly. And I think it's a powerful statement that's being made. And it would be a mistake for those on Wall Street not to take this seriously, because these people have very clearly shown that they're serious. They're putting their money where their mouth is in terms of, betting against the big guy, and they're making a lot of money in the process. And hedge funds are now imploding. You're seeing real financial consequences. The president is getting briefed, like you said, on a subreddit of just meme lords and
craziest thing.
It's absolutely insane. So if they don't wake up from this, then it's kind of on them that, they deserve to lose their money regardless, but like they really deserve to lose their money if they don't at least wake up and hear kind of this cry for help from Main Street, and maybe reevaluate one, how they talk about just the general public, but then two, maybe the policies they support that are unfair towards the public, and maybe they'll start treating Main Street more fairly. But I highly doubt that'll happen, willingly on their part. So I think we'll continue to see more hedge funds go under because of this type of activity.
We know about Melvin, obviously. We know about Citron, that they're in trouble now too. But from what I saw on all the news channels today, there's at least 3 or 4 others that haven't been publicly named yet that are very close to bankruptcy because of this. And again, I find that absolutely hilarious. In the chat, we're being told that Wall Street Bets is not private anymore, and that their new Discord is up and working.
Oh
So
wow.
if everyone wants to go check all this out now, you can have some fun. So the show normally goes anywhere from an hour to 4, depending on the night. We're probably going to do an hour here tonight. Oh, that's a perfect background. But, what I want to do now is I want to ask the chat, like, are there any questions that we haven't answered yet? Anything that you guys want to know? Obviously, I'll start with the first one that I would love to hear your opinion about. We have a community here, and so I have a Discord for my show and everything else, and we're all over there. And today, one of the users was talking about the idea that this is a setup, that some institutional people have gone in and done this, and that this is some very rich people making themselves richer off of the backs of the retailers somehow. I don't know that I'm doing justice to Jeremy's actual wording for this stuff, but in general, in fact, in chat here, I think it was said just a few minutes ago, sounds like a scam for your $600 stimulus check. So, question from Jeremy, latest question. What policy changes did the Trump admin make in the SEC that might allow for this?
I don't know if they made any changes that would specifically allow for this in particular.
Because this has been allowed forever. No one's just done it in this kind of concerted effort.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to argue that they're basically trying to manipulate the market and in order to cause short squeezes, but like, how do you prove that? Who's the responsible party? These are just a ton of individuals who are pumping a stock like that. There's many things that that Trump's SEC did to make it easier for these hedge funds to get away with things, legal wise, but I don't think that they did anything that made this, type of activity
specifically possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, this is one where me and Jeremy, I think, disagree a little on it. But, this is just, it's wild. They have to do something because they're them, right? So we know these super rich people are going to find a way to fight this off. But are they going to be so late that 5, 6, 7, of these firms go down and 20, 30, $40 billion worth of value disappears on them overnight? Now, if they do, I'm going to find that hilarious because, for a lot of people that don't fully understand this, the way a hedge fund really works is they come up with their idea of how they're going to turn your money into more money. And they've got this big document. It's usually a nicely printed book. It's all colorful. It's got all kinds of stuff in it. And they show it to you and say, here's how we make money. And you read it and you're like, yeah, that's the hedge fund I want to give my money to. I like their plan. Well, Melvin, Citron, and all these others that are getting hurt by this, their whole plan is to do what they did that just got them screwed. So there's no.
There are a lot of hedge funds who,
on the same plan.
Yeah, a lot. So I
bet
they're all very nervous right now, and they should be very nervous right now because literally one of the pictures I saw going around Reddit was just a screenshot of the most heavily shorted stocks. Number 1 on that was GameStop, and number 2, 3, 4 on that are currently being bought up by Reddit. So I think they're just going to go down the list and force all these funds and out of their positions. And I don't. Yeah, like I said, I just don't see how it could possibly be stopped. I think that funds are going to, maybe reassess their strategies in terms of relying on shorts because it's not
shorts are a
profitable.
big part of how the industry works, but I think the problem would more be you can't entirely rely on them, and you also can't. You can't short something to 140%. Like, that opens you up to exactly this. That opens you up to the squeeze. That opens you up to not even a large amount. It only took a couple thousand Redditors to put the squeeze on Melvin. Like, it's not hard if they're that overdone on the stops. Now, one of the things that I found interesting, you mentioned earlier, but I also saw some threads about were that Robinhood and these other platforms sell their analytics data to the big hedge funds, and all the other big institutions get to buy all this data on the retail traders. And one of the things that I found really interesting was reading about the fact that they even get to see where stop losses are bunched up. And for anyone in the audience who doesn't know what a stop loss or a take profit is in this space, it's you can say I'm buying in here, and then you can automatically say if it reaches here, sell and give me my money, or if it reaches here, sell and give me my money, or if it reaches here, get me out before it goes any farther so I don't lose any more money. It's just kind of automated signals to the platform saying get me out at a certain time, be it so I don't lose too much, or because I think this is as high as it's going to go and I want to take my profit now. So if the institutional sized people and the big hedge funds knew where all the stops were, they could apply just enough monetary pressure on the stock to get it to hit all those stop losses, wipe everyone's positions out, and then let it go back up because they were on the other side of buying those positions at that dip. Like, I'm explaining that correctly, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that they sold that data, and that's just honestly like
Disturbing.
sickening. I don't know how that's legal. It shouldn't be legal.
No.
It should be investigated. That's really nuts. It doesn't surprise me, but
Right.
that's disturbing, I guess I would say. Like that's just extremely wrong and makes me support this 100 times more. I want to move some of my Bitcoin into GameStop now.
Right? Well, I was looking, when I first heard about people doing stuff like that, it wasn't even this. It was one of the foreign exchange markets turned out to be doing it to its own users. So they were taking the users' money and then, allowing them way more leverage than we allow here in America. The Dodd-Frank, got us down to 50x leverage on foreign exchange, but foreign, there are places you can get 500, 1,000x. And so they were only allowing 100x, but they were then doing 1,000x, and then they were killing at your stop loss. They were just sending like little dips that weren't actually in the market along in their data to wipe out your stops and then taking the money. And it's abso-freaking-lutely crazy they were getting away. That's where I first learned how valuable knowing that stop data was.
Which platform was that?
It was one of the Dominican Republican ones. It was not Trader's Way, but the other one. It happened like 5-6 years ago. I'll find it and I'll send it out on Twitter. But yeah, it was one of the DR ones. I know Trader's Way wasn't the one doing it, but it's hilarious nonetheless. In some kind of sad, oh my god kind of a way.
Yeah.
But again, they're in a republic where paying off their government to allow them to do that was pretty cheap. And capable and able, and people were ready to receive the money, the bribes.
I mean, it's pretty cheap in the U.S., I would argue, too. Like, you
Yes.
donate, to a congressional campaign. It's a few $1,000s. These funds are managing some of them, tens of billions of dollars, some even more than that. That's very, very cheap. You pay Congress, a few thousand here, a few thousand there, make a few calls to them when they're writing their bill. A lot of bills are literally written by lobbyists for banks. Like, I don't think many Americans or enough Americans realize this. Like, a lot of bills are literally written, not like, a lobbyist is telling the congressperson what to write, but like written by the lobbyists themselves, and then Congress, votes on it and
We've had
passes
this
it.
talk about tech law before. So many people in Congress, even up to like the congressperson themselves, then their staffers, then anyone really on the team who actually has to put out, like when you see a bill and you see that front page of it, like just the cover and maybe the short description, that's all you're seeing. The bill's actually like that thick printed. Like there's a lot of boilerplate, but then there's a lot of description in these bills that get passed, these laws, these regulations, and a lot of that content they don't understand. So what I found funny was a bunch of the tech laws that have gone through, they literally reach out to experts in the space and say, how do you explain this? And then they'll get a few paragraphs back in an email that they just thought was an email response, and they'll find that the staffer copy pasted their content right into the bill and just was like, yeah, that sounds good, because they didn't understand it in the first place. And, that's happening in this space too. That's exactly what's happening here.
Yeah, it's It's really nuts. I have a friend who is involved politically and also is pretty well off financially. And he said, basically, when you go to DC, it and you're wanting to work with a lobbyist for whatever reason, they basically hand you a menu, is what he described it, in terms of like, you give us this much money, we can give you, this type of, this type of law, this much money, this type of access. And it's literally just a pay for play system for the most part. And it's legal, which is just insane. If in other countries, we call that bribes and corruption, and we'd be invading them to change that. But in America, it's just kind of business as usual. Can you guys hear me? Okay, it started to rain.
Yeah. It actually kind of is soothing, if you will.
Okay.
I'm enjoying it. For the chat there, thanks Dev Null for the gifted subs there. Everyone else who didn't get one of those, please subscribe. That's how I eat dinner, Good times. As I said earlier, I'm not playing in these stocks right now because I had negative in the bank when this started, or I would have gotten in at like less than $30. Now, I also want to address in the chat, Dev Null, you are not banned in any way that I can see. I can go to the member list there and you're there, and I don't get the unban button. I only get the ban button. I don't get the unmute button. I only get the mute button. So whatever happened, like Twitch did it at their level and are not giving me the power to undo it. I would if I could at this point. We'll try and figure that out later. So what else does chat want to talk about here besides everyone subscribe? Come on now. Yes, a hype train going. I love it. Poor Dev Null. One of my regulars too. Not even just one of the new people for this episode. Thanks for the cheers. Thanks for the follows. How high we think it'll go on Friday. I have my issues with. I don't want to say things that like I probably shouldn't say, but if I was a betting man, I think, $1,000 isn't off the table. I just still think that's fucking crazy, personally. I just don't understand why it's going there other than the memification of it. Like, this is a company whose whole business model won't basically be necessary in 5 years. Now that this has happened, they can buy off all of their debt if they make the smart play this week like they freaking should, and then reorganize into something more future-proof. Like, if they were to sell off what they had offered to sell off last week to just pay off $100 million of their debt, they'd have $480 million this morning, I think was the number someone on WallStreetBets calculated. So they pay off $400 million in debt, still have $80 million to kind of reorganize the company. Like, it's amazing what they could do right now to actually survive this. And I think that's awesome. But in that same vein, that's why I like the AMC pick, right? When I'm watching what they're doing with AMC, I saw one of the comments, which was my favorite, and the guy just said, I'm all in on AMC because I want to go see some movies when the pandemic's over, damn it. And I was like, yes, just start saving companies.
Yeah, I love it. The good companies,
Yeah, well, the ones that provide us the entertainment we want. I want my games, I want my movies, and I don't care about the hedge funds.
Yeah, it's the perfect combination. You get to support GameStop, give the hedge funds a middle finger, and so far enjoy a nice profit. So,
what did you think about all the people who accidentally bought Blockbuster this morning?
Who bought Blockbuster?
Oops.
The company wasn't affiliated with them or something, right?
They were one of the companies that bought up a lot of the old assets, so they also had like the penny stock, basically.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff happens in these markets, I guess. People,
half the people playing have no idea what they're doing right now, but they're screaming hodl and posting rockets and diamond hands.
A lot of people who have no idea what they're doing are making lots of money. A lot of people who think they know what they're doing are losing lots of money. So,
and that is my kind of world.
Yeah.
Let's live in that world from now on.
Yeah, I love it.
Have we missed anything? Is there anything that you wanna mention about this that we didn't cover?
I just saw someone in the comments mention crypto, quote unquote, tanking during this and asked about a market inversion. So my thoughts on that are that, one, it's not tanking. It's down 25% from all-time highs, but still, I believe, up this year, or probably around what it opened this year at. But I do think we are probably seeing some money from the crypto community going into brokerage accounts to buy up these kind of meme stocks, just because I think there's a lot of overlap in the two communities.
Yes.
But I think that once this meme stock craze is, I won't say over, but maybe settles down, we'll see a lot of the profits going back into crypto and potentially drive up the next wave. But that's just my, again, not investment advice, but I literally,
just
when
where
I was
you think it's going.
Yeah, when I was looking down earlier, I saw the comment that it was tanking, and I just bought some more Bitcoin. So I'm definitely betting on that personally. But
yeah, buy the dip, right?
yeah, I mean, it's on sale right now. I'll never understand people who, they buy at the all-time highs and then it drops and they panic sell, and it's like, I feel bad for them, but I don't know, it's silly. But
my thoughts on Nokia for tomorrow are, I'm not going to tell you what to do because I think I get in trouble the closer I get to that edge. But I will tell you, I find it hilarious, and that would be another company I would love to see saved by this, almost like brought somehow back from the brink, because I still have like one of those like Nokia, what was it, 3301, I think, the little Nokia bricks that like you could literally run over with a car and it still wouldn't damage it at all, sitting up in the attic like for the end time, so I have a phone that survives the zombie apocalypse, right?
yeah, Nokia, I would love to see nothing more than them to moon like GameStop has, and
right.
I think the meme potential is like 2x, a solid 2x of GameStop. So
you definitely got to bring Microsoft in on those memes for their utter failure with the Windows Phone, with all the stuff they bought out of Nokia.
Yeah.
I'm winning, yay. Yeah, I wish I had crypto. Like, I'm gonna tell you the worst thing that's happened to me money-wise in my entire life, and I had a 7-year divorce that did not go well. So are you ready for the worst thing you've ever heard?
Let's hear it.
I played around with Bitcoin early, almost 5 weeks after the white paper drop. I had a wallet running and I was playing around with it. And I had, by the height of it, the most I had in that wallet was 27,009 fucking coins. Now, they were worth less than a penny when I had them for that moment, and I ended up saving them until they got worth a few more cents. And at I think it was 7 cents I sold some, at 10 cents I sold some. But I only ended up getting a couple thousand out of it total. And I thought I was selling something that was just kind of a toy anyways, and I didn't know why people were buying it. And now I look back and I look at its current price and realize...
about $1 billion.
Yeah, so I made a mistake. I would say that the other funny part of that is, for people who don't know... very little of the Bitcoin that went to when Anonymous was doing its really fun ride through 2012 and 2013, and LulzSec was at its height. It had Bitcoin in its Twitter profile and Bitcoin on every one of the press releases, so people could donate. That got thousands of full coins, and the wallet was on a flash drive that was taken when one of them was raided.
Wow.
Never went into evidence, and no one knows what happened to it. But the coins are still in that old wallet out there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just, but they weren't worth anything at that point either. Well, maybe they were worth a couple dollars, but like not what they are now. Like, holy crap! Like I look back at all those coins and know, like, well, hey, it paid for my groceries for a couple months. Damn it.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020. If I look back at all the decisions I made, trading, business-wise, whatever, that I could have done differently, I'd be a billionaire as well, probably. Like it's
right.
It's very easy to to look back and be hard on yourself for that. I bought my first Bitcoin back in 2013 and sold the vast majority of it until a few years later. So I definitely, it's not the same as 30,000 coin, but
oh my god, dude! Every time I think of the number and I look back at it, I just some of the history of it actually being sold and everything still exists in email, in my old email as archived emails, confirmations and whatnot, and I won't look at them anymore because it's so sad.
Yeah, no, I feel like every few months I go back and look at search like Bitcoin and go back to the oldest emails I have in my inbox and try to find like old accounts I may have had or
Right?
I got in pretty early, and I know that I bought what would be today worth a very, very large amount of money, and I think I've found all the account. I did find a few $1,000s the other day. It wasn't much at all, just a
Right.
2-year-old account I had lost, but that was satisfying. But yeah, it's I
It
feel for
is
you. That's
what
rough.
it is, right?
Yeah.
At this point, I look back and say, it happened. I've had my fun. I've done all kinds of cool shit. I in the end don't have any money, but I've had a lot of fun along the way. So this has been great though. I really enjoyed the show. Thanks for being here. Does Chad have anything else they want us to talk about before we call this one a night? Oh yeah, the GoFundMe to try and find the flash drive in the landfill, or the guy who bought that first pizza from Papa John's for Bitcoin, and now the Bitcoin would be worth like $300 million, and like that's an expensive pizza.
Yeah, that's rough. I mean, your story is, I think, more more intense than that. Honestly, I'm surprised I haven't read about you on the read about that
I haven't
specifically.
really talked about it until like recently on the show here a couple times.
Yeah.
I have a lot of other shit going on with the activism and whatnot. I haven't had time to really refer to it. Plus, the pandemic really wiped me out. I got really sick early on, and then I was building a small company that would have worked great if every business that allowed walk-in traffic in small towns was up and running all year. And it was supposed to launch at the end of April. So you can guess how that went for me.
Yeah.
So it's been a rough year. It's been a rough last 9 months. I am now absolutely flat broke. Not mad about it. It's just where I am. I'm going to come back from this one. That last year sucked. So subscribe to the channel. Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, whatever. Money to me is kind of a means for a slightly less stress, but I don't need to collect a lot of it. I just like to be a little less stressed about it. So one of these days I'll have a few thousand to throw into one of these meme stocks maybe, and see if I can take one of these wild rides.
Bring down the hedge funds too.
Right? I mean, that would make me so happy. So hey, if anyone wants to give me like some GME, I'll sign up for Robinhood. You can donate over there. Like you can't even do that, can you? You can't like send stock to someone on these apps, can you? Someone would probably have to like Venmo me money. Oh yeah, CashApp probably does crap like that, doesn't it? You Cash App it to me and then I buy it right there on the app. That shouldn't be allowed, man. I guess I don't care too much. Cool. It's just weird.
I think it's nice to be able to. It's an easy way for average Americans to vary. It's not smart to have a lot of money in a savings account. You need to, if you want to actually stay ahead, you need to put it in something that's going to earn you more money annually than the inflation rate. And no savings account that I'm aware of does that.
Yeah.
So the way you counter that is to invest in something like stocks or crypto. So I think it's good, but it's definitely weird times.
Yeah, in the chat, people are saying we should talk about the Robinhood IBO possible this year.
I didn't even know they were planning on one this year. Doesn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either, but let's see how this news treats them. I mean, they've had a lot of debacles in the last couple of years. Letting people over leverage themselves on the options early on before they figured out that little loophole where some people on WallStreetBets like put in $2,000, and by the end of like 3 days they were like leveraged like $50,000, like or however much it got up to.
Yeah, I don't know if this is the same thing, but there's also something about where they found some way to guarantee profit. Like if you took 2 positions on Robinhood, there was some bug.
That weird box trade that guy was doing.
Yeah, it was like a box trade. You could literally just like print money from Robinhood, like they'd be giving you money. And they shut that down very quickly, but one guy made quite a bit of money before they found out.
I don't think the market will care. I think they'll IPO just fine. I think, if you weren't part of the memeing of that, you didn't really notice it. This one, people will have noticed. But I don't think this is their fault. they're just the facilitator of all the retailers, down here getting in on it, right?
Yeah, I don't think Robinhood's at fault for this at all.
I don't think fault is the right word. Yeah, right. Like I think I'm wrong with that word. That word applies that this is someone's fault. No, this is how the market works. They're just angry that the retail traders have figured out that they actually have power.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think this will negatively impact the Robinhood IPO. I do feel like that's like the perfect like tip of the bubble is when Robinhood IPOs. Like it just feels like I don't know. I could see everything coming crashing down after that, but I wish them the best.
So without giving any advice, I might short some things like the week before Robinhood IPOs.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
I'm not.
I would be very careful shorting right now.
I know. I'm not getting anywhere near any short positions for a little while because I think the internet is having fun with everyone who does.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a good topic, though. I mean, do I think the IPO is a good buy? I mean, I think Robinhood has a solid customer base, a large fan base, even if they yell and scream about stupid things that Robinhood does every now and then. Where else are they going to go? I mean, they can go to CashApp, I guess, but there's not much else for them with the liquidity, the ability to fill orders, like. So I personally think Robinhood IPOing would be a good buy. Like that's where I would be honored. No advice. Do not take my advice and do anything with it. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I think it's an interesting idea because the fundamentals are there. All the retail traders are using it. Everyone is sitting down there enjoying the hell out of doing it so easily from their phone. It's dead simple to get your money into and out of. I mean, so yeah. I mean, seems like a smart play to me.
I see someone asking for the next hot tip, Nuggy stocks, and I can't give financial advice, but one stock that I just think is pretty funny is Naked, NKD is the ticker symbol. I think it has quite a bit of meme potential. My friend sent it to me earlier, and it's already up. Let me see. The after hours trading for it is maybe it's not NKD.
NAKD.
NAKD.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Doc says it in the chat there.
Up 250% during the day market, and then another 60% after hours. I went from
yeah, people in comments were saying they saw it
to
hitting 400% up by tomorrow, and I'm like, no. And here it is, over 300 already when you count after market. Like, wow.
Yeah.
This is fun. It's fun to watch just the old people learning to deal with a bunch of millennials who figured out how to trade stocks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think even Gen Z is on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty wild.
Wow. All right, chat. So I think that's going to be our episode tonight. I keep saying that and then going to chat for more, but I think we're going to call it tonight. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on the show, Will, man. That was great. If I get, or if we get another one of these big meme stock events over the next few weeks, you want to come back?
Yeah, I'm down.
That's awesome, man. So, chat, we are going to call it here. Got anything you want to say to them besides like and subscribe?
No, it's been fun, guys. I've been reading the chat the whole time. So follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up with my updates. So
yeah, when we post this to YouTube, we'll put the links to your Twitter on there and a couple of them, and the links to some of the other stuff we've talked about on here in the description. It'll be up tomorrow. Twitch makes you do the 24-hour thing. So it'll be up around 7, 8 o'clock tomorrow, depending on processing time on YouTube's end. And then we'll be linked to everything. All right, everyone. Sweet. Good night.
See you guys.